What's up, everyone? I hope everyone's having a lovely day. I hope everyone's week is starting well. Today we're going to be doing a reading for what do others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? So what are you blind to in yourself that others notice about you? We're going to have 4 piles. Pile number 1 is going to be the 7 of Hearts. Pile number 2 is going to be the 8 of Hearts. Pile number 3 is going to be the 6 of Spades. And pile number 4 is going to be the King of Diamonds. So with the 7 to the 8, especially in hearts, that's indicative of cups energy. Collectively, the message there is that you guys are moving forward emotionally, like emotionally maturing. I'm getting a really recent energy too, like you guys have been really emotionally maturing lately or showing off how emotionally mature you are, and people are noticing that around you. People are taking note of that around you. We've also got the 5 of Clubs. The 5 of Clubs for the collective energy. People notice that you guys are very, very competitive. Whether you're trying to be or not, your energy is very, very competitive. Or rather, you stoke competitive energy in the people around you. You're good at the things you do, and I'm getting that you give off the vibe collectively of someone who... You give off the vibe collectively of somebody who is pushing themselves for their very best. People view you guys as someone who is constantly pushing for progress within themselves. It's a really admirable trait. All right, and again for the piles, we've got pile number 1 with the 7 of Hearts, pile number 2 with the 8 of Hearts, pile number 3 with the 6 of Spades, and pile number 4 with the King of Diamonds. All right. Now we're on pile number 1 with the 7 of Hearts. The 7 of Hearts is indicative of 7 of Cups energy. People notice that you guys have... I'm getting specifically, you guys have more romantic interest or more romantic opportunities than you realize. The 6 of Swords popping out right there. Yeah, I'm getting that you're very, especially recently, especially the recent chapter of your life, you've been very focused on self-progress and moving forward into a more peaceful state of mind. While you've been working on yourself, there have definitely been people who have been catching notice of you. There are far more people who are emotionally and romantically interested in you than you realize. Yeah, definitely getting a certain amount of hermit energy here. All right, what more can we know, please, about what others notice about you? The Ace of Wands popping out right there. You're far more creative than you give yourself credit for. This is really interesting energy. I'm getting that you don't give yourself enough credit. Like, that's coming through really strongly already. Like, you don't give yourself enough credit as far as, like, your romantic interests go. And I'm getting, like, just in general, like, you don't think that you're as special sometimes as you actually are. And the people around you can't fathom why. Like, especially people who get to know you. I'm getting the sense that there's a possibility that people could project onto you a little bit. There's definitely a sense here that there are people who think that you have, like, all of these opportunities in life, and at their very worst, they think that you've been, like, handed things or very, very blessed in special ways or something like that. I'm getting that the people that know you especially recognize the fact that you're a really hard worker and that you... Yeah, the Queen of Wands, and that you're very, very, like, you manifest very well. It comes very naturally to you. All right, what more can we know, please? Okay. What more can we know, please? There we go. The King of Swords. People trip over their tongue when they try to talk to you. This is definitely the energy of someone who, like, people will, like, make fools of themselves in front of you, kind of on accident. You just make people nervous when you interact with them. You have a very magnetic energy, and you're very, very physically attractive. I'm getting it's part of why people can, like, project onto you a bit and assume certain things about you, because they would act a certain way if they looked like you. If they had the sort of like privileges that they feel you have, they would act a certain way. So they assume that you are one who would act that way as well. Getting back around to the King of Swords, I'm getting that you're far more specifically well-spoken than people give you credit for initially. You're very intelligent. You're definitely very intelligent. And I'm getting that you have a really keen eye. Like, you're really good at reading people. You may deal with, like, being chalked up as, like, all looks, no brains. Especially by people who, again, are trying to, like, write off the things that you can do, basically, under the guise of, like, this is someone who is just really blessed as far as, like, their appearance goes. They've never had to struggle for anything in life. They don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, definitely a sort of, you might deal with that kind of energy quite a bit. You're a patient person. You're definitely a patient person. This is the sort of energy that would drive people insane. This is the kind of energy that would drive me insane. Alright. What more can we know, please? What more can we know about what others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? Alright. And we've got the Two of Swords. You are far more intuitive than you realize. And I'm getting that it's in ways that, like, when people meet you, you pin them very well immediately. And it can be very, very disarming for people, I'm hearing. Like, people trust you very quickly because you just seem to intuitively get them. Like, you might be someone who people have regularly said, like, I've known you in another life, I met you before, I know that we've met before. Like, you are a very comforting presence, and you vibe with people very, very easily, whether you realize that about yourself or not. And part of how you do that is that you connect to people on a very, very intimate way without realizing it. I'm getting, like, you can match someone's frequency really well, basically. You vibe with other people on their level very, very well. It makes people feel comfortable around you. And we've got the Five of Swords. Now, the Five of Swords energy matches the King of Swords energy. You're very clever and you're very good with your words. I'm getting that when people project onto you, you can only take it for so far. This is the energy that I was just talking about. It would drive me insane. Eventually, it would drive you insane as well. Like, I'm definitely getting that when you have to put your foot down, you are very good at putting your foot down. I'm also getting, however, that, like, as a person, you're not someone who likes to go that far. I'm getting very conflict adverse energy here. Like, you give people a lot of chances to get things right. You give people a lot of chances to be respectful towards you, towards the people around you, towards what you believe in, any of it. You give people a lot of chances. When you have to put your foot down, it is something that actually takes a toll on you in some way or another, because you don't like behaving like that. The people around you recognize the fact that you aren't just being mean when you talk, when you have to cut people off. Like, I'm getting that you're someone who likely has dealt with people taking advantage of your kind heart before, especially the people who have seen that happen to you. They are really proud of you when you put your foot down, when you acknowledge boundaries, when you make sure that the people who are around you aren't using you in any way, shape, or form. And we've got the Four of Coins. There are definitely people who would go to bat for you. Between the Five of Swords and the Four of Coins energy, there are definitely people who, when you're not around, they argue in your favor if anyone says anything negatively about you. There are a lot of people who really love you, more so than you realize. I'm hearing you have a really stable home base if you go looking for one. There are people who would love to be acknowledged within your inner circle, I'm hearing. I'm definitely hearing that you're also someone who's very, very like you want your privacy. Basically, you're a very private person. You don't just share parts of yourself with anyone for any reason. You know what I mean? It makes people feel a certain level of honored when you are vulnerable with them, when you do give them a little bit more of yourself than you are used to giving to people. This is definitely the energy of someone who you take on responsibilities all on your own quite often. You may be someone who had to grow up really young or have been told since you were very young that you are an old soul or that you are mature for your age. Like, you are very responsible for yourself and you're very independent in how you operate in life. It's very admirable. There are definitely people who see, I'm getting potential. Like, people see so much more potential in you than you give yourself credit for. And there are a lot of people who would tell you that if they were ever like given the opportunity. Like, you're too hard on yourself. I'm hearing you're definitely too hard on yourself. There are people who recognize the fact that it helps you to progress. Like, you have amazing self-control and amazing self-awareness, but the two of them together matched up with your goals of progressing forward, it can make you really, really hard on yourself. And the people around you in a lot of ways wish you would go easier on yourself, wish you would give yourself a little bit more grace. Because I'm getting that you are, again, like I think I mentioned it before, you yourself are a very patient person with the people around you. Like, you're very understanding, you're non-judgmental, you give the people around you grace. You just don't have that same level of grace for yourself. And I'm getting that I don't, like, you might not even realize that. Like, you might not even realize that you hold yourself to so much of a higher level than you hold anyone else to. The people around you realize that, though. The people around you definitely notice that. It's like the opposite of being a hypocrite. Like, you have really understanding standards for everyone around you. But when it comes to yourself, no excuse is good enough. Things are not good enough on the regular. You are not good enough on the regular. There are people who definitely notice, and especially people who are around you often, they notice that you are really, really hard on yourself. And a lot of them wish that you wouldn't be, that you would like ease up a little bit, give yourself a little bit of grace. And we've got the Six of Swords. The Six of Swords, I think it popped out earlier too. You're someone very, very, I think I mentioned that earlier as well. Like, I'm getting conflict adverse. You don't like arguing with people. You especially don't like arguing with people, I get, just for like the sake of arguing. Like, if someone decides they're going to play the devil's advocate, for instance, I'm getting that you're not someone who entertains that. Like, this isn't, we're not arguing theoretics, especially with something that impacts you. Like, you're very stable in your belief system, you know what you believe in, and you're not someone who can be easily shaken from that. You know when to move on from a conversation, and you are very good at prioritizing your battles to bring peace into your life. Very, very peaceful person, very, very non-aggressive person. I'm getting that, again, you need to like really be put in a spot to act a certain way and to put down your foot and set boundaries like that. You really, and you in a lot of ways don't like doing that. Like, you are a very giving person. You don't like having to set boundaries like that with people, but ultimately it's a way to protect your own peace. You're also likely good with kids. Um, if you are not, if you wouldn't consider yourself to be good with children, then kids likely really like you. Like, I'm getting like almost like if you have friends who have kids or anything like that, like their kids will ask about you. Like, children really like your energy, whether you yourself enjoy children or not. If there are children in your life around you, they really look up to you. I'm getting like auntie uncle vibes. And we've got the Seven of Coins. Now, the 6 to the 7 here, people notice that you are progressing, and I'm getting that, like, you've been progressing for a really long time at a very slow and steady pace, basically. Like, people have been watching you grow at a really, really steady pace, but it has been picking up. Like, people recognize the growth that you've been going through. There are definitely people around you who take a lot of inspiration off of the fact that you are on that grind, whatever that grind is. You have been progressing forward at a very steady pace. Definitely slow and steady wins the race. It has been a lot of work. The Seven of Coins is about putting in the work and not yet seeing the rewards for it, like waiting for the plant to really flower and bloom and give you fruit, right? You're still in the area where they're like growing the stuff. But people around you recognize the fact that you've been growing far more than you realize. It might feel like you're even going in one spot at one point or another, you know what I mean? Like, when growth is that steady, it can feel like there's no growth at all until you take the moment to look back and really compare things from like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and see that you've been progressing this whole time and getting to a better spot this entire time. The people around you, they take note of that kind of thing. They have been watching you. People who look away from you, when they look back, you're in a completely different spot, whether you realize that you've organically found your way there or not. I'm getting that you I'm getting that you're kind of a jack of all trades. You're likely someone who has dipped your toes in a lot of different things. All of the things that you've tried, all of the hobbies that you've done, even hobbies that you feel like are useless or pointless or a total waste of time, I'm getting that those are all going to really come in handy as you move forward with your life. You're a very creative person, and the creativity that has been bestowed upon you, all of the ideas that you've been getting for your whole life, basically, they will come to fruition in one way or another in your future. People have a lot of faith in the fact that you're going to do big things, or that you at least will get to the goal that you're aiming for. Again, you're someone who has been working this whole time to get there. People have a lot of faith in the fact that you will end up where you are trying to get to. And we've got the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands with that Sagittarian energy. You're really fun. You're a lot more fun than you realize. I'm getting that you might be someone who considers themselves like really stern or really straightforward, or like a straight man, basically. You are a lot more fun than you realize. I'm getting sense of humor. If you're someone who doesn't think that you're funny, if you're someone who doesn't think that you have any sort of sense of humor, understand that, like, that's not true. You have a really great sense of humor. There are a lot of people who appreciate your sense of humor. Popular loner vibes for sure. You're more popular than you realize. Like, just in general, you're definitely more popular than you realize. Your name is spoken far more than you realize when you're not around. You come off as someone really brave too. Like, really brave and uniquely talented is what's coming to mind. In this specific Knight of Wands, she's holding a spoon. If I'm remembering correctly, this specific myth involves a woman who can, like, cook. Like, you have very specific talents, and sometimes those talents can catch people off guard. And we've got the Three of Swords in reverse. I never thought you'd do this to me. Yet you attract people, I'm getting, who need... I'm getting comfort, but comfort isn't necessarily... It's a specific kind of comfort. You attract people who need to reroot themselves in the earth, to really reground themselves. There's something very, very... I'm thinking comfort is in, like, food. Comfort is in hearth and home. Comfort and protection in the way that this vulture has its wings around that girl. You know what I mean? You make people feel... you make people feel like they have come home. That kind of comfort. Yeah, you're likely someone who's attracted people who are, like, heartbroken, regardless of what kind of heartbreak it is. You likely are someone who you meet people at really, really specific times in their lives when they're trying to rebound or like regroup from something, and you leave a really deep impact on them. There are people who you don't talk to anymore, people whose lives you haven't been in a long time, who still think very fondly of you and still think very fondly of the memories that you had together, regardless of how the relationship ended. I'm getting even like, regardless of what happened at the end, these people can't help but remember that you had really, really great memories throughout. All right. What more can we know, please, about what others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? All right, we've got the Four of Cups in reverse. My heart just isn't in it. Yeah, the Four of Cups is the card of almost like not looking. Depicted in the traditional Rider-Waite, it is a man who's sitting there with his arms crossed, steadfastly looking away from the offer of a cup next to him. You're not doing it on purpose, though. The card in reverse, it's not that you're doing it on purpose. I'm getting that again, you are just someone who's really focused on your progress going forward, and you don't give yourself enough credit. So when things are offered to you, I'm getting that sometimes you'll like turn them down or shy away because you think that you're not good enough for them, or you think that you don't have the practice or you don't have the experience for them. You do. And if you don't necessarily yet, that's something that you can acquire. You're a really fast learner. You don't give yourself enough credit for the way that you operate, I'm getting. You're much more organized than you think you are, and you're much more goal-oriented than you think you are. The Four of Cups reverse coming right up over the Two of Swords with her eyes closed there. You don't notice how much potential you have, and you don't notice everything that you've done up until this point that utilizes all that potential. The people around you definitely notice, though. There are people around you who are just waiting to see what you do next. Like, you're a really impressive person, and when you come out with things, like even if it's just hobbies, even if it's not something serious to you, it impresses the people who watch it. It impresses the people who are exposed to it. You're a lot more talented than you realize. People, and talent is subjective, I'll give you that. But there are people who give you much more credit for your talent than you realize. And we've got the Five of Diamonds. All I've got to offer is me. The Four to the Five there again, and both of these are really tricky cards. You're progressing whether you see that progress coming or not. Like, you are progressing. It's just at a very steady pace. Slow and steady wins the race, though. It's the best way to do things for the longest lasting results. These are really like Capricorn vibes. Separately, the Four to the Five of Pentacles specifically, all I've got to offer is me. Again, it doubles down on this idea that you are underestimating yourself and what you have to offer, that potential there. The Four of Cups reversed onto the Five of Pentacles upright. Like, you don't realize how much you really have to offer outside of yourself, or even just what you yourself as a base is as far as an offering goes. Like, you are a lot more talented and a lot more steadfast than you really give yourself any credit for. But the people around you definitely realize that. This is tricky energy too, because if you downplay yourself enough for long enough, what will end up happening, and this may have happened to you already, is people will take advantage of the fact that you don't realize how much you're worth. And that never, ever, ever goes well. Like, you likely are someone who eventually you will hit a point where you recognize the fact that you have to reevaluate your self-worth, because you keep hitting the same mistakes with the same people, the same types of people treating you the same types of way. And it's a growth period that you will go through regardless of when you have to go through it. It's best that you realize early on that you have a lot of worth intrinsically as yourself, so people don't take advantage of that. And we've got the Fool. To look before you leap is just to anticipate the fall. Figure it out as you go. This is jack of all trades energy again. You're a lot more talented in a lot of different areas than you give yourself credit for. And a lot of different areas hold a lot of different opportunities more than you give any of it credit for. Your pile card number, or your pile card being the 7 of Hearts, indicative of the 7 of Cups, kind of doubles down on that energy again of the fact that like there's a lot of options for you. You don't really realize it, but there are a lot of things that you've dipped your toes into that if you tried again, you would realize that you can really pick up steam on it. And we've got the Knight of Wands. Again, this is the Knight of Wands from the first tarot deck landed at the bottom of the deck. Landed at the bottom of the deck too. The Knight of Wands, life is nothing without passion. I hope I feel this way when I wake up. Yeah, there is a certain level of like, to look before you leap is just to anticipate the fall. There's a certain level of like, you don't want to punk yourself out. You don't want to waste your time on anything or get your hopes up really high and have them dashed, or believe too much in yourself and then end up tripping and falling on your face. Like, it's the energy of someone who's holding themselves back because they're afraid of what going all out could mean if all out isn't enough to get to the finish line. You are far more capable than you give yourself credit for. And for better or worse, the people around you notice that. They notice the fact that you hold yourself to really high standards and that you are adamant about reaching them. Whether it's people who feel predatory towards that fact, or people who on the other end of that feel protective towards that fact because they really admire the fact that you have managed to keep that spark and faith in yourself going, and that it's work, that you've been leveling up this whole time. People have seen you do it. Like, you have a lot of fans and you have a lot of people who border on envy watching you, but ultimately they all notice the same thing, that you are very, very talented and you don't give yourself enough credit for it. All right, love, that is what I've got for you today. I hope it was fun. I hope it was entertaining. Thank you so much for being here again with me today. I will see you next time. Bye. All right, and we're on pile number 2 with the 8 of Hearts. Now, the 8 of Hearts, I think I mentioned this in the beginning with the 7 to the 8 as the pile card numbers. The energy is coming out really strongly here. However, you are very emotionally mature, much more emotionally mature than you even realize. And you've been getting more emotionally mature and showing more of your experience as time has gone on. Recently, I'm getting like this last chapter of your life, especially if you're sitting at the end of a chapter. And this is definitely the energy of sitting at like the very end of a chapter, a major chapter. You've grown so much through the last chapter of your life without even realizing how much you've grown, regardless of age, how much the experiences that you've just had have really helped shape you into a person who is very, very, I'm getting like level up, like you've leveled up. This last chapter of your life has seen you level up, especially in the area of emotional maturity. And the people around you recognize that a lot more than you do. All right. The 8 of Hearts is also indicative of the 8 of Cups. Again, it's the 8 of Cups is about leaving, emotionally moving on. You don't realize how much, especially if you've had to leave behind a really toxic, I'm getting like toxic relationships, like possibly not even like romantic or singular, like potentially friend groups, workplaces, just people who you've spent a lot of time with that you've had to move on from your life. If it's been difficult letting it go, Understand that you made the right decision. Yeah, it's almost like withdrawals. Like I'm almost getting the energy of like withdrawals, especially if you've left like really toxic relationships really recently. Understand that it'll feel a lot better once everything's processed, but you've made the right decisions. Focusing on yourself and putting yourself first is the right way to go. However that may apply to you. It's a very specific message that I'm getting will probably be received really differently by everyone who needs to receive it. But just know, if you've like left a really unhealthy group of people recently, even if it was difficult, especially if it was difficult, understand that you made the right call by putting yourself first. All right, what more can we know, please? What more can we know? All right. All right, and we've got the Justice card, the Six of Pentacles, and the Two of Swords. Interesting 3 cards to pop out already together. The Justice card, again, it doubles down on this idea that like you just made a really, really important decision in your life. The Justice card is also indicative of Libra. Libra is seventh house relationship energy. Very much the energy of having made a really difficult decision very recently. Likely that was very, very emotional for you and involved other people in one form or another. The Six of Pentacles coming up right after that is very much indicative of generosity. Like, I'm getting that you are a very patient person, and you're someone who really likes to give other people second chances. The Six of Pentacles is about balance in the mind, body, and soul in a lot of ways. You offer people a lot of chances to grow and get things right. And I'm getting right now, after offering a lot of people this chance to grow and get things right, you're sitting at a spot where you're kind of meditating on what you've just done. The Two of Swords is about, in a lot of ways, it's about waiting, frankly, waiting, feeling things out with your spirit, feeling things out intuitively with your spirituality. Definitely the energy of someone who is in the process of moving away from people who likely did not appreciate the generosity and offers that you had for them. Yeah, you don't know what you've got till it's gone energy definitely coming through. The people around you are very proud of you. It hasn't been an easy transformation I'm getting through this last chapter of your life. Know that the people who are around you, who have stuck around, who you've kept around, they're really proud of you. You've made bigger steps and strides than you realize. And sometimes you do realize that you just don't give yourself enough credit for just how much that really is, you know what I mean? Or just how important that really is. You're a very hard worker. Innovative is the word that was coming to mind too. You're a very hard worker and you're very innovative with your technique and style. Definitely a trendsetter. People, yeah, the Hierophant reverse popped out with the Five of Cups reversed. People recognize the fact that you're a trendsetter if you're someone who is often, you realize people are copying you. There's no other way to put it. I was trying to think of another way to put it. There's no other way to put it. If you're someone who recognizes that people are copying your style, copying even like your experiences and like the way that you hold yourself and your personality, if you've dealt with people copying you in the past very blatantly, understand that the people around you have noticed that that's what's going on. Like if you're someone who has started any kind of trend, people recognize the fact that you are at the forefront of these kinds of things happening. The Hierophant reversed is very unorthodox energy. When upright, it's very, very stern, usually very practical and traditional. energy. When reversed, there's an unorthodox feeling there. It's still got all of that power, but there's a very, very going against the grain feeling to it. The Five of Cups in reverse is actually a lovely card. It speaks of moving on from any kind of trauma that you've had in your life. I'm getting that you're someone who, when you go through major transformations in your life, you transform really, really dramatically. And it's in those moments where you might recognize that, like, people are trying to copy your energy. You have really, really bright energy, I'm getting. This is really sunshine energy. You come off as someone who can't be held down for very long. Someone who's very good at thinking outside of the box with that Hierophant in reverse energy. Very, very alternative, very, very unique. And I'm getting that there are a lot of people who really want that. A lot of people who really want access to that, and a lot of people who really want to be that. Definitely the energy of people want to be you or be with you. You might have found that it is a little bit difficult for you to make friends because friends catch feelings for you. Or on the opposite end of that, start competing with you in a really unhealthy way. What more can we know, please? What more can we know about what others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? If you are someone who's religious or spiritual at all, I'm getting that you have a really unique bond with your spirituality in a way that, again, can't really be imitated. And there are definitely people I'm getting who would like to imitate the kind of spirituality and confidence that you hold yourself to. Very, very unique. You're very, very unique. You leave a personal stamp on the things that you do in a way that, again, makes it impossible for anyone who's paying attention to not notice that there are people who are jacking your style. If that has frustrated you throughout your life, I hope that brings at least some level of comfort. People recognize the fact that people do this to you. And we've got the Three of Pentacles. The way that he's not looking, his eyes are closed, he's just enjoying himself, literally going to the beat of his own drum. And there are two, like, demons in the background who are trying to jump him, basically. You don't realize how many people are so envious of what you've got going on, to the point where they really want to jack it, they really want to cop it, see if they can use it for themselves. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I guess. I don't really like that saying. I can see the truth to it, but it's still frustrating. And I get that, again, it can be very frustrating. The Three of Pentacles is also the card of, like, showing off your work. Like, people recognize that you are very valuable. You have very valuable insight. You have very valuable talents. And I'm getting that often people can underestimate how difficult it is to do what you do. It ends up just being obviously rip-offs of what you are doing. You're very, very talented. Definitely the mold, not the copy. I think I said that wrong. The Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is the slowest moving of all the knights, but the most thorough and ultimately the most stable. Again, this is that energy of slow and steady wins the race. You've been going at a very specific pace, and you are getting to where you're going, whether you realize it or not, at a very steady rate. Especially if you've been feeling kind of stagnant lately, understand that, like, you've been going at a very steady pace for so long. It literally might just be that you should probably relax, take it easy for a little bit. Even if you're someone who's just like, oh, I only do a little bit a day adds up, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what you're putting your energy towards. A little bit at a time does add up. And you you will, if you take a moment and breathe and like reflect on how far you've come, you'll notice how much it has added up to the point where you're at today. Very, very diligent worker. You're a very, very diligent worker, and you're very hard to knock off your grind, I'm hearing. Once you get like a steady pace going, very Virgo energy. Once you've got that routine going, you can follow it to the end as long as you keep your mind clear and your sight straight. Yeah, there are definitely people who wish they had your work ethic. You come off as someone who takes care of business, basically. And there are a lot of people who are very envious of the fact that you can control yourself like that. Like you've got that level of self-control going for you. And we've got the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups is all about options. People around you notice that you have a lot more options than you give yourself credit for. Especially if you're someone who's like a dabbler at all. I don't think you recognize that like the things that you can do past being party tricks are really valuable things. Like this is definitely the energy of someone who like picks up hobbies and like gets really good at them very, very quickly and then kind of like puts them down and then moves on to the next thing, dabbles, you know what I mean? You, in your dabbling, have still found things that are valid options for you to dive into and continue if that is what you want to do. There are people who would kill for your skill set, I'm getting. Like, there are people who are incredibly envious of the skill set that you have, even if it's just as, like, a hobby. Like, especially if you're someone who's on social media, I'm getting this is almost the energy of, like, having a personal Instagram that has nothing to do with like your work or anything, that you just like post yourself dabbling in everything too all the time. People are very jealous of the fact that it seems like you can pick up anything you want and then get really good at it before putting it down and just moving on, without realizing that like there are people who really want the skill that you are just getting into, and that you didn't seem to have to really take a whole lot of energy or effort to learn. And granted, don't get me wrong, that says nothing about the actual energy or effort that you've put into a thing. All it says is that you make things look very simple. You make things look like they can just be pastimes, when other people around you recognize that if you really went in, if you really gave it that level of energy that they're all aware of, that you could turn it into like a real thing, something that you're really good at, potentially something that you can monetize in a lot of situations. You just don't think that way, I think. Like, at least that's how it comes off. You don't think about like monetizing the things that you're good at so much as like you think of the fact that you want to continue to be good at them, you want to move on, you want to explore, you want to experience new things. And we've got the Four of Wands. Aw, you don't realize how many people love you. How sweet. And this is definitely a lot of different types of love, but it can't be denied. This is a honeymoon card. Like, you have a lot more secret admirers than you recognize, especially if you're someone who's often out in your community, especially if you're someone who's really big on social media. You have a lot more secret admirers than you realize. It's very, very sweet energy. It truly is. And we've got the Lovers card right after that. Like, yeah, there are a lot more people who are like more interested in you than you give yourself credit for or realize. And the people around you recognize that. I'm getting that people, especially if you like have been single for a long time, people keep their distance because they don't want you to reject them. Definitely the energy of like, you have a bunch of secret admirers who can't quite make themselves take the risk because they don't want your rejection. It's really cute energy. There are definitely people out there though that see you as like their perfect other half. With the Four of Cards and the Lovers coming out right there, like this is This is crush energy to the extreme without you even realizing that it is. You have fans for sure, especially if, again, you are out big in your community or big online. You have fans. There are people who are very interested in you romantically. And we've got the star at the bottom of the deck. Aww. People are really into you. Like that. People are really into you, and I'm getting, like, regardless of who those people, you make people feel inferior. Like, regardless of who that person is, regardless of what their history is, what they have going on for themselves, you make people feel inferior, especially when they are interested in you romantically. And it's nothing you do, you don't do it on purpose. It's just that, again, you are someone who seems so, you seem like you have so much to offer, because you do have a lot to offer. And it can be really intimidating to people who frankly feel like they don't have as much going for them as you have going for yourself. You don't realize how much you have going for yourself either. I'm getting, like, there's the real possibility here that you, like, downplay yourself, especially when it comes to, like, your hobbies, the things that you kind of just do for fun, or that you do, like, you do to relax or take your mind off things. Like, you don't give yourself enough credit for how good you are at the things that you do, just straight up talent-wise. You have a lot of talent. And it makes even the most seasoned people and experienced people feel kind of... yeah, the Three of Hearts. All we have is this moment, but isn't it lovely? Like, you make people feel really, really, regardless of how experienced they are, you make people feel really nervous. So sorry about that. That was a phone call I had to take. Anyway, as I was saying, you make people feel nervous, especially when they're trying to approach you in like a romantic setting. People really, really want to leave a good first impression on you. I'm getting that they often kind of make themselves seem silly, though, especially in situations where, like, any kind of intoxicant is involved. Like, when people try to do any kind of, like, liquid or smoke courage to talk to you, you likely have a lot of stories of them, like, literally making fools of themselves on accident, whether you realize it or not. Like, you make people really nervous. And we've got the Two of Wands. I can make this dream come true. You're very forward-thinking. I'm getting very progressively minded. Like, if you are an activist or any kind, if you push for any kind of cause, whether you consider yourself an activist or not, the people around you really, really respect you for it. Like, admire might be too strong a word for some people, but, like, people overall very much respect you for the stances that you take. Yeah, I'm getting that you are someone who, you're very progressively minded. You're very open and non-judgmental is what I'm getting. You meet people where they're at, and you're very accepting of people in regards to, like, how they present themselves. All right, what more can we know, please, about what people notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? What do others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? All right, we've got the Seven of Diamonds reversed. This is never going to end. You are a very, very hard worker, and more than a hard worker, you're someone who is dedicated to your work. For better or for worse, I'm getting that you're someone who will ride a ship out to its final destination. Like, you aren't going to give up on anything that you've put your time into and you've put your energy into, unless you have a damn good reason to give up on it. You're really, really... I'm getting that you can get really emotionally attached to the things that you do, especially if, again, if you're an activist, if there are any causes that you really push for, like there's a really strong emotional attachment there. And other people notice how hard you're willing to push and work for a better world, basically. In your eyes, how much you're willing to sacrifice and really give yourself to certain movements to create what you would believe to be a better world. People really respect you for this. There are a lot of people who respect the hell out of you for this, by the way. It's it's a very, you motivate people. You've definitely changed people's minds about things before. You're very, very well spoken. And you're also someone who has a very level head on your shoulders, and people recognize that. Like, when you say things, there have definitely been people who have stopped and actually listened for no other reason than the fact that it was you saying them. Whether it's because these are people who really respect you on like a very specific level because they know you personally, or even because these are people who just respect you because they like how you look. They're willing to give what you say a shot specifically because they're willing to give you a shot. Like, regardless, there are people whose minds you've changed on subjects just by being you and just by being so dedicated to what you do. Especially, I'm getting the energy of like, you wouldn't call yourself an activist, you wouldn't say that you do a whole lot. Like, you don't give yourself enough credit for that, for sure. Like, I'm getting that you are someone who might your downplay your abilities, downplay the things that you're capable of. It's out of a sense of humility. You're very, very humble. And the people around you recognize the fact that you're a very humble person. I'm getting that you might have been, it might be easy for people, especially people who don't know you, to read too far into your humility and assume that you are like faking it or feigning it. When people get to know you, they recognize the fact that like, no, you're a very, very humble person, to the point where like you should give yourself more credit for the things that you do and the impact that you have on the people around you. And we've got the seven of wands, prove you want it. You're a really hard worker. That's the third seven, by the way, and they all came up right next to each other. The seven of hearts, the seven of diamonds, and the seven of clubs. It's even a different card suit for every seven. You're an incredibly hard worker. Like, a really, really hard worker. And I'm getting that, again, you don't need, it's very often not things like money or like fame that motivate you. You are just a very hard worker. And you just when you decide to put yourself into something, you put yourself into something. You give it all that you've got. It's very admirable. And I'm getting that, like, again, you don't recognize just how hard you push for things and just how admirable it really is. You don't recognize the fact that people have really changed their minds about things specifically because you are willing to push and advocate for it. And the Eight of Hearts, to match the Eight of Hearts pile card that you have, onward and upward. You help people move forward, the 7 to the 8. You've helped people move forward. You've helped people progress. I'm getting the energy of like, you've helped people. There are people who would say you have made them a better person, objectively, as far as their worldviews go, just by being yourself. You encourage people to move forward. You encourage people to go through like the kind of transformations that would ultimately give them emotional growth. It can be tricky. It can definitely be tricky, but I'm getting that people are really grateful for the transformations at the end of things. There are people who recognize the fact that like you've done them a great service just by being you, and really, really respect you for it. And we've got the Tower. I am inevitable. Again, those changes, yeah. Earth shaking changes. You bring changes into people's lives just by being you, just by authentically being who you are. The energy that you bring through, it can decimate people sometimes because you cause massive amounts of change with just with how you touch people. The Tower card and the Lovers card also, there are a lot of people who find you to be very, very physically attractive and incredibly, you have a lot of sex appeal. As like a final message, it had to be said. Um, and it's something that others have noticed about you for sure. They take note of it, trust. Anyway, that's what I've got for you, loves. Thank you so much for being here with me again today. I hope it was fun. I hope it was enlightening. I will see you next time. Bye. All right, and we're on pile number 3 with the 6 of Spades. Now, the 6 of Spades is indicative of 6 of Swords energy. You are very, very level-headed. And I'm getting that you might not realize that about yourself. The 6 of Spades is indicative of 6 of Swords energy. This is very specifically energy about moving from one unsafe place to another much more peaceful place. The energy coming through is that of someone who you might have had very, very difficult formative years. I'm trying to find the best way to put this because it'll be very specific for everyone, but it'll also be very obvious for everyone, I think. Like, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say it personally. Like, you might have had a very difficult time growing up or during, like, very formative years of your life. Very specifically, I'm getting with people talking down to you, or people, the term gaslighting is coming to mind even. Like, there's definitely a sense here of having to move away from a very toxic place and being in the process of moving to somewhere a lot better. If that is the case for you, know that the journey gets easier. It's very, very heavy energy off the bat. I'm very sorry for that. But it's energy that recognizes the fact that you had to leave a place that was unsafe or a place that was burdensome for some reason. And you are in the process of healing mentally, physically, spiritually, as you go towards a much safer and more peaceful shore. Know that others notice the fact that you're a very strong person. You're a very strong person for having lived through and gotten out of the situations that you've been in your life. You likely are someone who has heard that you are like an old soul, or that you had to grow up quickly, that you matured very quickly. And it's likely for at least some of you, yeah, the Devil card popping out right there. It's likely that at least for some of you, that came at a price. Like, your growth came at a certain price. And it's one that is still very, very heavy. This is another 6. The Devil card is another 6 card. You are in the process of finding balance between your body and your soul and your mind and your spirit. I'm very strong Temperance energy. You are healing and getting brighter as you go. And I'm definitely getting that lately people have been noticing that you seem a lot happier. You seem a lot more light. You seem a lot more joyful in your day-to-day. It's something that others have been noticing about you, especially recently. And people are happy for you. People think that you deserve happiness. People think that you deserve to have like a little lift in your step when you walk through the world. You've been through a lot. The Devil card popping out again. You've been through a lot. For some of you even, there's a sense of like addiction almost. Not any specific kind of addiction, but just addiction almost. And having to get away from that, even if it's not an addiction that you personally had. It was being around someone who was an addict and having to transfer again from one place that seemed not so safe to another place that will be far more peaceful and far more safe. And secure. I'm getting secure. You're a very stable person, and there's definitely the sense here of looking for stability around you as well. People have noticed your growth. Again, you've seemed happier recently. There are definitely people who would ask you what's going on or like what's changed. You seem a lot happier recently. Yeah, the Three of Wands and the Six of Pentacles. The Three of Wands literally depicts a girl climbing out of the depths. Like, you seem like you have been going up lately. People have very much been curious about what's been going on personally with you. The Six of Pentacles is also indicative of giving and graciousness. You are... Part of what people notice about you immediately is that you're a very gracious person. Even when you have a right not to be, but especially when you can be. Like, this is the energy of someone who would give somebody else the shirt off their back if they needed it, if they asked for it. It doesn't even really matter if you know them or not. You're just a good person, and you do something like that for someone who really needed it. And I'm getting that, like, when it comes down to it, very often you're likely someone who, like, you wouldn't consider yourself to be, like, a very generous person. You wouldn't consider yourself to be, like, any special as far as, like, your communication with other people goes. Like, you taking for granted sounds a lot worse than what it actually is. What it is you just don't notice or give yourself credit for how gracious you are as a person, how accepting and non-judgmental you are as a person. People gravitate towards you because you're someone who you find balance in any situation that you're in, basically. And people really want to ride your boat. Like, they see how you're getting through life. They especially see how you are handling major events and transformations in your life. You make things look effortless, and it makes people want to know what your secret is. It makes people want to get to know you. Yeah, you're a lot more popular than you realize. There are definitely, the people around you definitely notice because they all notice each other being interested in you. But you're a lot more popular than you realize. And the Emperor popping out right there. It's because you've got a lot going on in your life. Like, I'm getting that you're someone who is very, very much usually moving forward. You don't like moving backwards at all, and you don't really stay in place very often. This is the energy of forward motion for sure. It's likely that you may have had issues with people trying to, like, ride your coattails to the top. Or people who have, like, really relied on you to the point where it's, like, unhealthy or, like, I don't want to say parasitic, but close. You know what I mean? Again, you're a very gracious person. And we've got the Four of Cups and the Emperor popping out again. So, lots of double energies there already. You leave a very strong impact. And they're both major arcana cards that came out twice in a row for you. You leave a very strong impact. The Four of Cups is indicative of literally looking away from things, like the way that she is focusing on something and cannot see the bird behind her. Like, she's focusing on the golden bird, so she can't see the real actual songbird behind her. You don't really take notice of... I'm getting that you don't really care how people feel about you. Like, you don't take notice of that kind of thing. Like, you're very focused on what you're doing. You're focused on moving forward and getting ahead. You know what I mean? Progressing forward. So you don't really notice how people, or at least you don't seem to really notice how people feel about you. And it doesn't seem to bother you if people feel any kind of way about you. Like, it's not something that you brag about as far as people really liking you. And it's not something that bothers you as far as people not liking you. Very focused on your own growth. It's a good way to be, too. It's likely how you've grown so much already. How you've managed to grow so much already. All right. What more can we know, please? About what others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself. What can others see in you that you don't see in yourself? All right, and the five of swords popping out right there. I'm getting that you think that you're a lot more mean than you actually are. The Five of Swords energy here is matching really strongly with the Justice energy in my mind. Like, you are someone who is. I'm getting that, like, you take it to heart when you have to go, like, toe to toe with people. Like, when you don't like confrontation. This is very, very strong conflict adverse energy here. But when you do have to put your foot down, I'm getting that you put your foot down, but often feel sorry about it later, like you've been too mean. You're likely someone who is very not paranoid about being mean or cruel to other people. You just care. Like, you care how you come off. You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. You're not out to offend anyone. You really want to be as accepting as possible and as, like, conscientious as possible to the people around you. When push comes to shove, though, you're capable of defending yourself. And I'm definitely getting the energy of, like, almost regret afterwards. Like, you don't like having to argue with people. The way that, like, she's crying, even, like, you don't like having to go there. You don't like having to have any kind of altercations with people, whether that be verbal or, God forbid, physical. You know what I mean? But you are capable of defending yourself. Definitely multifaceted. No one who you've ever snapped at has ever expected you to snap like that. Like, I'm getting the energy of, like, people push you. You give people chances. It's not like you're not giving people chances. People push you, though. And they'll push you too far sometimes and not realize that you were always holding back a certain level of how you could be to them if they kept pushing you. And we've got the Ace of Coins. Very, very brand new energy. Very hopeful energy, too. The Ace of Coins here is depicted by Jack and the Beanstalk. You are very hopeful. You bring a really refreshing, youthful feel with you. And it's very sunshine springs eternal energy. You know what I mean? Like, you're very positive, whether you realize that about yourself or not. And you give off this energy of just being indomitable. Like, people really respect how dedicated you are to what you believe in and to the work that you do and the things that you're involved with. You're not someone who can be easily talked down from things. Once you really put yourself into something and believe in something, you'll go 100% for it. And this goes for both, like, causes and people as well. Like, if someone has your support, they have your support 150%, and you let them know that. You're very good, I'm getting, at cultivating relationships, whether you realize that or not, and on a very physical level. Like, the way that the Ace of Pentacles is about planting seeds, you're very, very good at cultivating relationships very, very organically. And I'm getting that a lot of it is intuition. You're very good at following your intuition, and your intuition leads you to places where you're just meant to be at that exact time, and you meet the right person at the exact right time, not just for your life, but more importantly for theirs. You leave impacts on people more than you realize because you go where your intuition is driving you, and you're meant to meet certain people when you're at those places and when you're doing those things. Your intuition is just leading you along to where you're supposed to be. And I'm getting that your faith in it, whether you're, like, open about it or not, people recognize it. Like, people recognize that there must be something. I'm getting magical. Like, people recognize that there must be something that you do, because you do always seem to be in the right place at the right time for people. Even if it's not the right time for you, like, people recognize the fact, even if they never let you know. Like, even if they never tell you just how much you impacted them. Like, you always seem to be in the right place at the right time, meeting the exact person who really needed to meet you. And we've got the King of Cups energy. Very private. I'm getting very, very private. You, I think, are someone who is very, very good at keeping your personal and professional life separate. You're very good at putting on, like, a good face, keeping your best foot forward, and keeping the intimate details of yourself personal. Very Beyonce vibes. Um, and people are really curious about you. A lot of people are more curious about you than you even realize, I think, especially if you have any, like, sort of following on the internet, or you have any kind of groups that you meet with out in the world. You are a lot more popular than you realize, and there are a lot more people than you realize who actively want to know more about you and are actively curious about what you have going on behind the scenes, especially romantically. I'm hearing, especially romantically. You're very magnetic. The King of Cups is Scorpio energy, eighth house energy, very, very magnetic. There's a certain level of mystery there that just comes with the fact that, like, you're not trying to seem mysterious. You're just trying to keep the different aspects of your life separated from each other. It just stokes people's curiosity more, though. People are very, very curious about what you've got going on. And the people around you recognize that. Like, this has been the thorough for all the readings so far, I think, and I should have guessed that it would be when the Five of Wands came up as the collective energy. That there's a certain amount of jealousy that follows you around. Like, other people notice how interested in you people are, and they get jealous about that. They get jealous of the attention that you get, whether you realize that you're getting attention or not. You're someone who, like, you may have met people who, like, automatically seem to, like, dislike you or automatically seem to, like, put you down without ever getting to know you. Know that that typically comes from a place of, like, intense jealousy, and usually it comes from a place of jealousy having known who you are before you were even introduced to them, because people talk about you. Like, your name comes up in rooms that you don't realize it comes up in. People are really interested in you and they talk about you, and if someone's jealous about you, that drives them nuts. Like, even before they ever meet you, they already have an opinion on you because they've heard all about you. And the opinion is unfair because they're really envious of what you've got going on. And we've got the Page of Coins. Despite it all, you're a very hard worker, however, and I'm getting a hard worker who, again, you, like, there's almost a sense of blinders. Like, you're very good at shutting off any sort of attention that you would give, or that these people would want from you, and focusing ahead. The Page of Pentacles is the hardest working of all of the pages. The Page of Pentacles is also Page, which is very, very young, youthful energy. You walk into new things and new experiences with a very, very youthful, hopeful energy. You're very invigorating. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. You imbue places with new energy. People are really grateful for your presence because it's very youthful. It's very, very refreshing. You bring a really new point of view with you when you enter situations. And you're very good at articulating yourself. I'm getting, like, you're very good at laying down a plan. This is, like, really strong Virgo energy too. You're very good at organizing yourself, laying down a plan, and setting a course of action ahead of you. Very good tactician energy. Like, I don't think you realize how good you are at, like, organizing things, especially organizing things that you are passionate about. In the same way that, like, I don't think you recognize how good you are at the things that you're passionate about, or how knowledgeable you are about the things that you're passionate about, because it's not difficult for you to do these things. Like, it comes really naturally for you. That level of dedication that you have to the things that you're doing, it comes really naturally for you. And because things come so naturally to you, I think you undervalue, not on purpose, but you expect less of yourself, or I'm trying to think of the best way to put this, and I think it is undervalue. You undervalue the things that you can do because they come so easily to you. Like, you don't recognize just how talented you are at certain things because that talent is very natural for you. Even if it's been years of building that talent up and making it better and sharpening it and making it pristine, it's still something that started very, very organically for you. So you don't recognize just how valuable it is, especially when we get to the fact that you yourself are very, very good at what you do. There is a lot of money in how you behave. I'm getting, like, regardless of what the situation is, I'm getting, like, there's a lot of money in the talents that you have, and the people around you recognize that you could tap into that and be really big. People around you see your talent far more than you do. And we've got the Page of Cups, another page, more very, very youthful energy, and two complementing suits there with the earth and the water. The Page of Cups is also very, especially this Page of Cups, it's indicative of the red string of fate. You are very good at following your intuition, and that intuition will never lead you wrong. You also have really great things ahead of you. The page energy, regardless of how old you are, indicates the start of an adventure, the youthfulness of an adventure. You still have a lot of things ahead of you. You still have a lot of things that you're going to experience, learn, do, whatever, regardless of how old you are. And again, I'm getting that intuition will see you ride through a really interesting life. You've got a really interesting life ahead of you. And we've got the Nine of Wands. And the Nine of Wands, especially, this is the card of the Baba Yaga and the girl that escapes her, basically. You do not give up. You're very tenacious. That's the word. You're very, very tenacious. Very brave. Whether you realize that about yourself or not, you're very brave. You take things head on. And again, you're a very good planner, but taking things head on seems to be a part of your plans often. Like, whether you mean it to be or not, like, people see you as very brave, and they see you as very, very forthright, basically. Like, you take things in earnest, exactly how they come, and you come out on the other side more knowledgeable and better for it, I'm getting. Yeah, people have definitely seen you tackle like really crazy instances in your life, and they've been curious about how you've managed to come out on the other side like barely shaken. All right, what more can we know, please, about what others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? Yeah, the same way that you undersell your talents, you also undercut just how impressive getting out of things, like just how impressive like getting out of negative situations you've been. Like, what's the best way to say that? Like, you don't realize that you've been in situations that you've handled really, really well that other people never would have been able to handle. Situations where, like, if someone else had to walk in your shoes, they could never do what you did. You undervalue that. You just assume about yourself that, like, anyone could do the things that you do, and very often that is not the case. All right. What more can we know, please, about what others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? All right. And we've got the High Priestess. The veil is thin here. More of that intuition. Again, whether you're someone who's openly really mystical or spiritual or not, I'm getting it doesn't really matter. Like, the veil is really thin for you. You have extremely strong intuition. And for some of you, you might not even recognize it as intuition. It might just be like, you just follow your gut. Like, you go where your feet lead you, and your feet often lead you in exactly the direction that you need to go in. I'm getting that for some of you, you might consider it to be luck, and in a couple different ways it is, I guess, but more than luck, it's a willingness to do what you need to do without necessarily knowing why you need to do it. Like, you follow your intuition with so much certainty that it's almost like, regardless of how you acknowledge it, it's almost like you're being rewarded for being willing to follow your intuition till its end point. And we've got the Two of Swords reversed. I am of two minds. Yeah, the Two of Swords is about waiting in a lot of senses, about being in like stasis or hiatus. The Two of Swords reversed is about the fact that very often you've been given two very unfair choices in your life, and you've had to make very, very difficult calls, and you've made them. Like, you've grown exponentially throughout your life because a lot of your life has been really heavy transformative periods where you've had to make really, really intense decisions and commit to them. The people around you recognize the fact that you are incredibly strong to be able to have done so. The people around you recognize the fact that you're strong. You are far stronger than you give yourself credit for, or even than you recognize in yourself. Again, we come back to that energy of like, people, they're not everyone can do what you do. Like, you very much underestimate yourself and overestimate the general populace as far as like what you've been through and what people would be able to handle if they were you instead. And we've got the King of Wands at the bottom of the deck. I was born for the spotlight. I'll share it only with you. Definitely spotlight energy for sure. You don't recognize just how much of a spotlight is put on you regularly. I'm getting this is the energy of like someone walking into a room and everyone kind of instinctively turning around to look at them. The spotlight kind of follows you, I'm hearing. For better or for worse, you are always very visible in the crowd. People can kind of sense out your energy, and there are always people who are interested in what you have going on. All right, loves, that is what I've got for you. Thank you so much for being here with me again today. I hope it was fun. I hope it was enlightening. I will see you next time. Bye. All right, and last but certainly not least, we're on pile number 4 with the King of Diamonds. Now, the King of Diamonds is indicative of the King of Pentacles, which is Taurus energy, Taurasian energy. Specifically, I'm getting second house energy. You are someone who I don't think this has been a through for all of the piles so far, but it comes in very specifically in a material sense for you. You are someone who vastly underestimates how well you can put yourself together. This is the energy. Yeah, the Knight of Swords and the Six of Pentacles. This is the energy of a very, very hard worker and a strong manifester at the same time. The Knight of Swords is the most focused of all the knights, arguably the fastest of all the knights as well. The Six of Pentacles is a card of physical and mental balance. You're someone with a very, very clear head that makes very good decisions, I'm hearing. And you don't realize how impressive it is that you can make something out of nothing. This is definitely rags to riches energy. I'm getting, especially if you have not seen abundance yet, people around you know that you will. That is what they notice about you. There's star energy here. People notice that you have really strong star energy. I'm thinking like the moon from the Lenormand deck even. Fame energy. You draw eyes wherever you go. And I'm getting that people have a really hard time reading you. You might feel like, especially if you're someone really socially awkward, you might feel like you're being really awkward in certain situations when that's not the case at all. Like, you come off much more well presented than you think you do. You're really hard on yourself, I'm hearing. Like, you have really strict self-control, and it can border on being like too hard on yourself. You should give yourself a break sometimes, basically. Be gracious with yourself. Yeah, definitely earth energy. I'm getting like Capricorn and Virgo as well. Capricorn's long goals and long foresight. And Virgo's organization specifically. You're a very well-grounded person. And I'm getting that you are far better with your finances specifically than you give yourself credit for. You have very, very good self-restraint, I'm hearing as well. Very frugal energy. You're not cautious, but you're a smart spender. Yeah, but more than anything else, you're capable of making something out of nothing. People are always completely floored by what you can produce with so very little to work with. we've got the Page of Swords and the Eight of Coins coming out. Yeah, people watch you. They've watched you work very, very hard. The way that she's literally crying while she like braids the thorns. People have watched you work very, very hard. You're an incredibly hard worker. The Ten of Wands, the card of burdens. You're also someone who's willing to take a lot onto your shoulders. I'm getting that sometimes it can border on like you can have it can border on almost like a need to only rely on yourself, a need for independence. There are definitely people in your life who would really like to help you out and really like to and we've got the Four of Wands, the Five of Swords, and the Ace of Coins. Yeah, there are definitely people in your life who really want to help you lay the groundwork. The Four of Wands is the honeymoon card. People have really, really loving feelings for you. Like, I'm getting even past like romantic, past like platonic. Like, people just really have a very, they get warm when they think of you. When the people who know you, regardless of who they are to you, they have very, very warm, like fuzzy feelings about you. You're someone who brings a lot of comfort to people. Whether you realize that or not, you probably don't realize that. The Five of Swords is also indicative of the fact that you're there for people through better or for worse. The 4 to the 5, in fact, like, it's easy to be there for someone when everything is going straight, going your way. It's very difficult to be there for someone when everything is falling apart. You are someone who is there for someone. You're someone who's there for your friends and your loved ones through thick and thin, and it inspires a lot of love in people. It also inspires a lot of trust in people. People are willing to bank on you. People are willing to listen to you. People are willing to give things thought because of you. You are someone who has very good judgment. So even in the terms of like spirituality, like if you're talking to someone who doesn't believe in that sort of thing, they'll still give it a chance because you're the one saying it, because they know that you have your head on very straight. So if you're believing in it, there must be something there. The Seven of Wands also popped out, again with the hard worker energy. Very, very hard worker, and very... I'm getting rags to riches energy consistently. Like, people are very impressed with how far you've come. Especially if you're someone who, like, shares your story on social media or, like, out in the community. People are very, very impressed with how far you've come. Alright, what more can we know, please? What more can we know about what others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? Alright, and we've got the Empress. Regardless of how you identify, and the Empress is more Taurasian energy. The Empress is Venusian energy, which is Taurus as well as Libra. Strong Taurus vibes here. Very, very... So sorry about that. That was a phone call I had to take. Anyway, as I was saying, there's a lot of Taurus vibes coming through here. You're very earthy. You're very welcoming to people. Whether you realize it or not, there's something really calming about your energy that people gravitate to. The way that there's like a glow around your head there. People also find you, again, to be very, very abundant. The Empress is the card of abundance. People think that you are... It's amazing that you can turn nothing into something. You are a person who I'm getting that you're very creative, and that there are people who want to emulate that level of creativity that you have. While you are... I'm getting that you're really patient with people about this as well. Like, this has been a through thing for a lot of the readings so far, that like there are people who really want to like emulate your style or copy you in any way. For this particular energy though, I feel like you're really, really patient with people when they do this to you. Like, I'm definitely getting a saint-like energy. She's literally the Virgin Mother here, right? And there's a strong sense that you're very understanding with people. even when people don't really deserve you to be understanding, or even when people aren't giving you a good reason to be understanding. You're a really good person. And I'm getting that you have very good judgment. Like you have a solid head on your shoulders. You have very, very good judgment. And it can be almost off-putting to people, I hear, because to be totally frank, you are very physically attractive, and people I'm thinking can like kind of project onto you, because frankly, if they looked like you, they would be leaning on their looks a whole lot more than you do. And we've got the Hierophant next. More Taurus energy. The Hierophant is indicative of Taurus energy. Um, I'm getting that you can be very, very stubborn's not necessarily the word, but very one-minded at times. Like when you dedicate yourself to something, you go all in. It has your complete attention, it has your complete dedication. And I'm getting that that can be the same with people as well. Like you make a really, really good partner. I'm hearing you're very supportive. You're always there for your partner when they need you. And I'm getting that you're a very, very good shoulder to cry on. You give really good advice. The Hierophant is traditionally depicted by the actual Pope. Like people really value the things that you have to say and really value the knowledge that you have to offer. And I'm getting that you might not consider yourself to be a particularly knowledgeable person. Ultimately, you have a lot of life experience, regardless of how old you are. This is definitely like old soul energy. Like you've been through a lot, you have a lot of life experiences, and people are really grateful that you're willing to like share your life experiences and share yourself with the people around you. Um, I'm getting that things that come very naturally to you, like like I'm getting that you're, for instance, a great storyteller, right? And it comes very, very naturally to you. You don't realize how valuable that skill is, or how difficult, rather, that skill can be to acquire, because things come very naturally to you. I'm getting that it can cause envy in the people around you sometimes. Again, we're back to that line of thought. Like, it's really easy for people to become envious of you, I'm getting. And you don't really notice it. Like you're very patient with these kinds of energies. I'm getting the the energy for the collective in the very beginning of the reading with the Five of Wands energy. I'm getting that for you, you do your best to kind of separate yourself from that. Like you don't like competing with the people around you, and you don't like being put into like a competitive energy, basically. You're a really great team player. And I'm getting that you don't like being in a situation like a frenemy situation, you know what I mean, where like you can't fully rely on the people around you. Getting that you're very, very careful about the people that you'll let into your life, and you're particularly picky about the people that you let into your inner circle and into like your inner sanctum as a person, you know what I mean? The people who get close to you, who are allowed to know you on that level, they feel very, very honored for that fact. Like they're honored that they get to know you that intimately. Again, you're a very good partner. You're definitely a very good partner. If you're in a relationship now, your partner adores you. Um, Regardless of how you identify with the Empress on the table, like your partner adores you. If you are not in a relationship now, know that there are definitely people who are interested in you. um, both of these women have their eyes closed here. Like people recognize the fact that that you have a lot more romantic options than you realize. The Hierophant card is also very spiritual, and this version of the Empress card is also very spiritual as well. You are very, very gifted by the gods. Like you have very God's favorite energy going on, and others notice that about you, and you definitely don't notice that about yourself, I'm getting. Um, yeah, you have very strong intuition. You have very, very strong intuition. And I'm getting that it can come so naturally to you that like sometimes it doesn't even like you don't even need like a push. Like you just kind of like go with the flow through life. It feels very, very natural to you. Like, this is the energy of, like, you might be someone who doesn't doesn't thoroughly believe in like all of the new age spirituality stuff, you know what I mean? Someone who's a lot more traditional too. The Hierophant is very, very traditional energy. Like, you're very, very down to earth, and I'm getting that you're very logical minded. Like, you try to balance your spirituality and your logic at the same time in a very even way to keep yourself like steady to keep yourself steady as you walk forward through like spirituality and through your own self-discovery. And you are definitely on a path of self-discovery. You're growing right now. You're in like a growing period right now in your life. I'm getting there's a whole lot of incubation energy going on here. There's definitely the sense that you're working on something, or you're developing, you're in the point of development right now, whether that is working on like a project or working on yourself just as a goal. You're definitely in the middle of like a very, very potent chapter in your life right now. And the people around you can see you growing in ways that you don't realize you're growing. The people around you recognize the fact that you are evolving through this period of your life. And I'm getting that because it's happening to you and it's happening gradually over the chapter in your life right now, you don't really you don't really realize just how much of a change you're undergoing. A lot of emotional growth here, a lot of growth in general here. This is the energy of like planting a seed and letting it sprout, right? You are very much in the period of time where you're still growing the seed that you planted, basically. And the people around you, I think, recognize that this tree is sticking to the tree metaphor. The people around you recognize that the tree that you're growing, the plant that you're growing, it's going to be incredible. I'm getting that you don't like to get your hopes up very high, and it might sometimes lead to you downplaying your abilities and underestimating yourself and trying to keep yourself from like being what you would feel is unrealistic in your expectations. It's not a bad thing, but the people around you definitely don't have that kind of withdrawal. Like, they do believe, people around you believe and see that you're going very far with your life and that you're really evolving through this time period and that you're going to do great things moving forward. And we've got the Eight of Cups. Yeah, moving forward. It's the card of emotional moving on. You're well missed. Any group of friends that you've left, especially friends, but like coworkers, lovers, even, like, definitely getting the sense that you're very, very well missed. And this the Eight of Cups usually features the night. Like, it's typically a figure walking away into a dark night, right? Leaving kind of without a word in the dead of night. I'm getting that anyone who you've left there, anyone whose company you've left, especially people who are really intimately involved with you, really close groups of friends, family, even for some, lovers, anyone that you've left behind, they really, really miss you. It's almost kind of sad. People have really great memories of you, and it's definitely the energy of you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Like, the people who miss you right now, I'm getting they don't approach you specifically because they don't really know what you'd have to say to them if they would. Definitely the energy of like, you don't like conflict, but I'm getting that conflict can follow you around sometimes. It's not your fault either. I'm getting that like you've learned a lot of lessons and gone through a lot of transformations through your life, regardless of how old you are. And you're not doing anything wrong. You're following the path that you're meant to follow. Speed bumps are just kind of a part of the road. And frankly, the fact that you're willing to follow it despite the speed bumps that you have to live through, it speaks very plainly to the faith that you have, whether it's in yourself or in your intuition or in any kind of spirituality. The fact that you keep following your road forward, it speaks volumes of your character and your belief. And people respect you. People definitely respect you. Even people, like groups of people that you've left behind, people who miss you right now, they really respect you. You're a very respectable person. I'm getting that for a lot of them, they're happy that you left without Like, you could have made a big deal out of it, basically. Like, for a lot of the people that you've left behind, they're like grateful in a certain way that like you didn't totally burn the bridge down. You left as calmly as physically possible or humanly possible. You don't try to drag really, really unfortunate situations out, I'm getting. And you try to be the bigger person. Definitely getting that. You put your energy towards being the better person in a situation where people are going low. Instead of going low, you go high. You know what I mean? And it it speaks volumes of your character, and people recognize that around you. The people, especially outsiders looking in on the situations for you, on the situations between you and these people, like, this is the energy of people will go and complain about you to their friends, and their friends will go look into you and kind of like you better, like, not like you better, but not dislike you. They side eye the person who talks about you at that point because you seem like a really great person. Frankly, if this person got a really bad side of you, it kind of says something about them. And we've got the Page of Wands. You're very rejuvenative. Like, things don't get you down. The Page of Wands coming up right after the Eight of Cups. You are someone who can see the bright side in everything. You're very, very fun. Your energy is very, very playful. It's it's lovely. I'm thinking of like summer days and like going to the lake or going to the river, like exploring as children. You bring out the fun in people, and I'm getting that you encourage other people to have fun. Like, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, right? You encourage other people to let loose sometimes. And it's because you are so much fun yourself. You don't realize it, but you bring the party wherever you go. And I'm definitely getting that, like, you underestimate just how impactful your energy is when you're around other people. Like, you have great energy, and everyone around you is super happy whenever you're around. You bring sunshine with you. You bring adventure with you. Adventure. And I'm definitely getting an adventurous vibe. Anyone who you've gone on, like, whether it's like a small adventure, like in the middle of the night to the grocery store, or like a big adventure traveling out of state, out of country, whatever, people look back on those memories super fondly. Like, they, especially if they're people that you've left, like, this, it's all under the same umbrella. There are a lot of people who miss having you in their life, a lot of people, and a decent chunk of these people are really regretful for what they did that ended the relationship between the two of you. They recognize the fact that it wasn't your doing, or at the very least they recognize what their doing had to do with it. You know what I mean? And we've got the Six of Swords. Yep, the Six of Swords and the Eight of Cups both coming out together. You are definitely someone who doesn't stick around for negative energy. Like, I'm not that you're like avoidant or anything like that, but like, you're not one to like drag out fights. You're not one to drag out the moment. You're very good at saying your piece and moving on. You're really, really emotionally mature in a way that I don't think you realize, specifically because you have all of this Page of Wands energy. You manage to be very mature while also still being youthful and playful. And I'm getting that it can make you, it can blind you a little bit to just how emotionally mature you really are, and just how sound the advice that you give really is. And we've got the Queen of Coins at the bottom of the deck, that Capricorn energy that we were talking about earlier, lots of earth energy. She's got a pentacle there because she's going to plant it, right? Like, this is more planting seeds energy. A lot of forward thinking. Even with all of the Page of Wands energy, I'm getting ultimately you underestimate how mature you are very, very often. Like, you're a fun person, you bring the fun with you wherever you go, and it makes you underestimate just how mature you are in any given situation. And I'm getting that it's caught people off guard as well, like people who thought that you were naive, or like you weren't seeing the whole picture, like you'd be easy to dupe, basically. They've been caught off guard by how like sharp-sighted you actually are. Just because you like to have fun doesn't mean that you're not a very, very smart, clever person. And there's definitely been people who have underestimated you and had to pay for that. All right, what more can we know, please, about what others wish they could tell you? What others notice in you? I'm so sorry. What others notice in you that you don't notice about yourself? What do others notice about you that you don't notice about yourself? All right, and we've got the Three of Pentacles. Everything you touch turns to gold. I'm almost positive that I mentioned this earlier. And it even comes up right over the Empress. Like, you turn things, you can make something out of nothing. Like, people are so envious of the fact that you've got, like, you seem to be God's favorite in a lot of ways. You can make something out of nothing. You have very, very strong manifestation energy. I'm getting that often people can underestimate just how hard you work, specifically because you get miraculous results. Like, people don't, you get results that people are like, that's not just working hard, that's a miracle. Like, you get really good results, and a lot of it is because you put your whole into it. And we've got the Seven of Hearts. Don't overthink it. And you go with the flow. It doubles down on that go with the flow energy. You don't overthink things. You try not to, at least. Your energy says that you try not to. You move with the flow. You go where you're led. And you always end up where you're supposed to end up. You learn your lessons along the way too. It's part of why you're so favored by whatever higher power you believe in. And we've got the Queen of Swords. I will cut you down before giving you power over me. I shall marry my kingdom. Very independent. Another queen coming up at the bottom of the deck. You give, regardless of how you identify, there's a whole lot of feminine energy here. You are very, very, you know yourself very well. This is a lot of introverted energy. You're very, very aware of your talents, which is why it can be so surprising to the people around you that you don't seem to understand just how talented you are. You know that you have talent, you just can't understand. You just don't give yourself the credit that everyone around you gives you. You don't see yourself in the way that everyone around you sees you. All right, loves, that is what I've got for you. Thank you so much for being here with me again today. I hope it was enlightening. I hope it was fun. I will see you next time. Bye.